Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Simply Trade podcast. My name's Anik, and I am the host for you today and every time we do the news. And today I have a special guest with us. She's been on the podcast multiple times. She's a trade expert. She's lived a lot of lives in the trade industry. Let's just say that. And I'm so glad to have you. Hi, Renee. How are you?
Hi, Anik. Thanks for having me again.
I'm so glad. You're clearly not in the best environment currently, which California is a great environment to be in, but currently you have a little bit of stress going on, right? Around you, it seems like. How has it been for you?
It's been very interesting 16 days, but I'm glad you said that because I feel so bad for the people that have lost houses and everything and their belongings. And I've been lucky. I was only without power for 4 days. So of the 16 and, I just want to send my, heartfelt wishes out to them, to the greater Los Angeles area. Cause at some point, we've been surrounded by like 10, 12 fires at any given point sometimes. So, yeah.
I mean, yeah. And I think that goes for the whole Simply Trade team. We extend all our hearts out to everyone who is in those situations, who has lost lives, material things, whatever they have, whatever they have gone through, because it's unimaginable for most of us that are not in that current situation. And we do want to note, I think this is the perfect time to do so, is that Global Training Center is having their seminars this year in California, Anaheim, and which are happening in February. And 5% of all GTC seminar and Anaheim seminar registrations will go to the LA fire relief donations. So that is one way I think we're trying to help the people out there, because we're bringing our business there, of course, but there's still so much hardship felt in the state. So we hope to do something good in that sense. And we're so glad we're able to do this. So that's one thing I just wanted to note right before we get into the actual topic. But thank you for sharing, Renee, because I know you're in the midst of it all. And I hope it all comes to a stop very, very soon, and everything can, hopefully the communities can rebuild, and, things can be restored.
Yeah, it's supposed to rain this weekend, so that's what we need. A little, although it might create some mudslides in the burn scar areas, but anyway, we need some rain.
And I do want to note we're recording this episode a little bit ahead because it's not very time sensitive. I know you guys are expecting news, and we're giving you news. People, don't worry. We're giving you some news. It is February 10th today, and we have a huge update. So I want to lead into this with saying that a staggering 74% of workers are willing to learn new skills or retrain to remain employable, which ultimately gives growth to the employees, right? And 87% believing that learning and development in the workplace is crucial. And that goes for the trade industry, because the trade industry has loads of, sensitive areas where you can truly rack up some bills, let's just say that, pay loads of money, make little mistakes. And it is just so important to be trained. And I know Global Training Center as a sponsor is there for you at all times to be trained. But first, I want to go a little bit more into the topic of training and why it is so important for trade professionals to be trained, not just the starting people, but also the people that, have been in the industry, as well as the higher up people, because they need to be aware of certain things. So can you talk a little bit more about that and, your standpoint on it?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'll start out with a little story, which I tend to do. So when I started in this business, I was hired at the bridge between Canada and Michigan. And I actually worked some midnight shift, and I went in and I had no idea what I was doing because I had no training. And so I was just clearing trucks. I ended up clearing a truck of sugar, which was under quota. And I had, and then the next day my boss gave, she said, "What the heck?" But I had no training. That's what I told her. I said, I had no idea that I was supposed to do 1, 2, 3, 4, within our system and check quota. So that's just an example of a beginner in the business, in the trade industry. There are so many facets to exactly what you said, Anna, nuances, laws, regulations that, it's almost overwhelming. I mean, the way I would attack it is one, get some baseline training, right? Overview. And then depending on what job you have, train yourself. Maybe it's import, maybe it's export. Start with, basic training in import and export, and then move on to your role, right? And even in the role, there's training within project management and communication. So there's so many layers and levels to this, but as a beginner, you definitely need some baseline training. Cause like I said, I cleared a truck of sugar and had no idea what I was doing. And then you mentioned,
Wow.
midline people.
Was it sugar? Wait, was it sugar?
Sugar, yeah.
Was it sugar? Who knows? Was it sugar? Did you try it?
We don't know.
Did you try
no.
it? Did you feel a little weird? I'm just kidding.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, it was a crazy environment because the truckers are in a hurry, right? They don't want to sit and wait. So there's a lot of pressure to get them cleared. And this was prior to like any kind of automation because I started in the early 90s. Oh my gosh. We were handwriting things. Anyway, it was
Quick question. As a woman, it was that different because this is not a women empowerment podcast, but not podcast episode. I meant because I do want to have an episode on that, but I just want to, I'm very prone on that. But I do want to ask, was it a little bit difficult to be a woman in trade because it's such a, I don't want to say manly environment. I hate to say that, but it kind of is, right?
I found that it was difficult to climb the ladder. There were several female roles lower in the organizations, but it's difficult to climb the ladder to higher executive or senior manager or director roles, right? There's not a lot of those roles in trade. And so those are difficult to get as a female. And definitely, I mean, I'll tell you a story. I started out at a freight forwarder. This was after the bridge, after I cleared the truck of sugar. And the guy, there were, a couple women, 2 men, and we were like coordinators. We were processing documents at a freight forwarding office. And one of the executive managers said, "Hey, Renee, I want you to do the dishes." And I'm like, "What?" Because there were several people here and I didn't think it was my role to do the dishes. And so I told my father, he was very supportive of, women empowerment. And he bought me a sign that said, "I don't do I'm not your mother, or your mother doesn't work here. So do your own dishes." And I put it at my desk. That was kind of passive aggressive, but,
that's very passive. Wow. You went out there. Okay.
Yeah, but I had to do something because I needed to, place my center about my, if you wanted me to do all the dishes for everybody, then you need to put that in my job description, right?
And I wouldn't mind, right? That goes really for, I mean, you always want to do the best you can in your job. I understand. But if you're being asked for something beyond what you should take care of, I mean,
yeah. Okay. And it's not a problem to do the dishes. It's just the way it was presented. And so I felt like it was a little discriminatory, and things like that ended up happening a lot to me, in the 90s, early 2000s. And, like I said, as I was climbing the ladder in trade, it was difficult being a female to do that. So to your point, I think definitely that's an issue. And I will tell you, I was scared of the customs officers at the bridge. Holy cow. They seemed big and they had guns and
yeah. And I think anyone is. Which that's good because people should be intimidated, right? That's the whole point of it. So going back to the trade, being trained.
Training, yeah. Okay. So the beginner level, like I said, you sit down at the desk. Some people fall into this career, as we know, without, they come with no degree or maybe a degree in art, and all of a sudden they're doing trade. I was fortunate. I had a degree in international business, so I had some exposure, in management. And, so when I sat down, I had a little exposure, but most people maybe didn't in the early 90s, right? They just fell into this role. And so training is essential for that baseline. And then when you get to your mid-level and your senior executive level, people forget because they're not doing it every day. Even me, as I got up into the director level, I sometimes forgot what was going on down in the weeds, in the really important roles. Those are the people getting everything done, and those are the reputation for your company, for your business, for trade. If they're making mistakes, it's a big problem for the corporation, likely with compliance. So we need to train the mid and executive level people and keep them in the know of industry regulations, things that are changing, how this is impacting the people lower in their organization, right? That are doing the real dirty work and making sure we're compliant.
Yeah. So knowing all this, there is a news to share. I know that Global Training Center now has, which just recently released February 1st, professional import certifications. So what does this mean for people, or how do people go for it, and why should they go for such a professional import certification? If they could just take one class, and that's fine. They get a certificate for the class, and that's great, right? And obviously you are more knowledgeable after a class. But in professional import certification, what does that mean for someone, or what can it mean for someone?
Well, I think what a certification means is you're expanding your level of knowledge across a few subjects, right? That are intertwined. And then your baseline knowledge is increasing. And when that happens, you're making better decisions. You have more confidence in your decisions. You have brand reputation for the company, for yourself. You're learning the rules, in more detail. And basically, I think you become an expert. You speak the trade language a little better. So one class is awesome, like you said, but additional classes that are intertwined just increases your baseline knowledge.
Okay. And with this professional import certification, how can someone benefit? Because I know, obviously you can put a certificate on your resume, but as a certification, that seems like something that an employer would really look at, and, can increase your pay, your advancement, your kind of standpoint in the business. So what else is there to the certification for someone?
Employers look at that as, one, you're making a commitment to yourself and to the company to, one, increase your knowledge, improve compliance within the company. And, I think when you make commitments to more than one class, a certification, you're investing more of your time, thereby letting the employer know and the industry know that, hey, this is serious. I want to learn this. Like, for example, it's almost like, you're playing a game internationally with a bunch of people, and you have a badge that says, look, I took 5 classes. And, let's say you're picking teams. I don't remember when you were in gym and I don't know if they did this where you were, Anik, but when I was young, we had gym class would be like, hey, team A and B, and you'd be waiting and waiting to get picked. You know what I mean? And in this case, I'd be wearing a badge that says, hey, I took a certification in 5 different courses, and I bet you I'd get picked. Right. So I think it shows that you have this commitment, and then thereby you are more dedicated to the challenge, right?
Yeah. And it says that 76% of employees believe their companies should provide more digital skills training. So these kind of trainings, right, provide them these kind of opportunities. My question is, if someone is in a company and, wants to take such a course or such a certification, right? A certification that I think the total price of it is around $1,500. We'll get you the exact price. We'll put it down below. If they clearly, some people don't want to pay that out of pocket. What can they do? Can they do anything? Can they, like, if they don't know if their employer pays for it, should they ask? Like, what is the ideal situation here? Because obviously it'll further themselves and it'll help the company, right? So it's kind of on both sides.
Of course, yeah. And I think some companies might get nervous when they make investment in employees that maybe they'll get the training and then pursue other opportunities, right? So like when I got my license LCB, my licensed customs broker, I think the company I worked for was a little concerned, like, oh, she's going to leave. So what I think we need to do as a trade, as an industry, is write some, put a letter together, a justification on, hey, here's why this training is important for me, for the company, for compliance, right? The cost, the return on investment will triple, and you need to do some analysis on that, right? So if it costs $1,500, how is the company going to get that back? And I think we can, they can easily write a justification for that. You can mentor people. I know at Raytheon, where I was, we had a highly developed mentoring program. So that's another way you can give back to the company, right?
Yeah. No, I love that. I mean, I think so. Global Training has said they will provide a justification letter, provide that to the employee so they can make initiatives to go out to their employer, if that opportunity is not yet forehand. I do want to ask, how will it work? So if someone is really interested in the professional import certification, what do they have to do?
So they have to register on our website. It's free to register. And if you've taken any of the courses, and we can list them, I think, Anik, below, right? Of what courses are in the PIC. We call it the PIC. I have a story about that too, the PIC. I'll tell you in a minute. But if you've taken any of the courses in 2024, we will count that towards the PIC certification. And then there are 2 other courses. One is free, and then there's an e-learning. So you register, we do some analysis. If you've taken the courses, let us know, and we also look at it. And then you start your certification journey and let us know when you're done. And then we have an exam, 60 questions, need to pass at 80%. And the first exam's free. So make sure you study. And we have a course package discount, I believe, for the certification for the PIC. And then we'll require continuing education every 2 years.
That just sounds so fantastic. First of all, it sounds fantastic for the trade industry because, it means that more professionalism will come to the industry, more knowledge and, upkeeping certain standards, which I've been in the boat that everyone has to be trained. That is me. Like, I think that needs to be pushed in the industry. There needs to be a certain credits that every trade professional needs to be taking. But that is my perception that obviously is not in place. Well, it's for the LCB. We have those, right? But that's clearly not. That doesn't have anything to do with the trade professionals, with the other trade professionals. But can you just quickly share our story with the PIC story?
Well, the PIC, yeah. So I like secondary kind of meanings for acronyms. And I realized that PIC is also photonic integrated circuit, which I used to classify at one of my roles, Teledyne Technologies. And what these things do is they process and manipulate light signals collected by telescopes, and they handle vast amounts of information from celestial objects. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's exactly what trade professionals do. They handle vast amounts of information from celestial objects. So it's kind of like PIC, and it has a secondary meaning.
Yeah, I love it. I love that that meaning. And it seriously makes sense. So it's so funny. Well, anywho, lastly, I want to just round this together and say that this certification, this professional import certification by Global Training Center, is now available. You can go to Global Training Center certifications. So globaltrainingcenter.com/certifications, and you'll find all the certifications there. But right now it's only one, which is the professional import certification. And there's many more to come. But if you're in the business, you should start here and rack up those certifications, get a higher pay, get advanced, be more competitive, be better, know more. I think there's just so much to it. And I'm so grateful that, this industry is advancing, that training is advancing, and, and it's easy for you to take. So you don't have to go, unless you want to be in person, you don't really have to do anything. I mean, you have to sit down and learn, listen to enjoyable instructors, unless you've already taken those courses. It's just something that sounds very attainable for busy people, I would say, too, because trade professionals are always busy. And it's something that you can do, whether you're 20 years old, 30 years old, 40, 50, 60, going up the ladder. I think it's just something that everyone can do. And so I'm grateful for this opportunity for everyone. And yeah, do you have any last comments, Renee?
I wanted to say a couple of the courses. We have cultivating a trade culture, compliance culture, and then we have an overview of the global trade and just in general. And those courses, I think, are really informative. So I don't think anybody has taken those yet because those are new. But look forward to maybe entertaining that as part of our professional import certification or PIC. And then one last thing I just want to throw in is LA Strong.
LA Strong. I love that. Thank you so much. And again, 5% of GTC registrations to the Anaheim seminars will go to LA Relief donations. Thank you so much for listening, guys. And I know this is a little bit of a different episode, but we wanted to give you a break with all the politics and trade and whatever is going on. But you do know that if there's anything, emergency happening in the trade industry, we'll get you out on emergency episode. I think this was also just so beneficial for our listeners and a great opportunity that is coming for you and is now available, actually. So it's already February 10th and it's been available for 10 days. Get after it, do it now, and then you'll be the first one to take the exam. So how exciting. Well, so thank you so much. Thank you, Renee, for coming on as always. And we'll see you guys next week. Or maybe before, whatever happens. Bye.